There's a 1 mile, a purse of $3,000. Exact as in tries. First half of the early daily double. Scratch the 5, no free parking. Sec, a field of 9. The 1 is Civil War, owned by Richard Elwood of Lancaster, Ohio, trained by Rick Hartman with the K-Man, Kane Kaufman. Number 2 is Instigator, owned by James Petticelli of Haddon, New Jersey, trained by Dan Ader with Kyle Ader. Number 3 is Bert and Bobby by Pauline Bryant and Donald Cockerill of Ohio, trained by Donald Cockerill with Jason Brewer. Number 4 is Jack's brother Joe. The lessee is Eldon Griffin of Dayton, Ohio, trained by Pat Landis with Chad Lees. Scratch the 5, no free parking. Sick. The 6 is the Big Wazoo, owned and trained by John Perrin of Lebanon, Ohio with Danny Noble. The 7, Meals on Wheels, owned by James and Pamela Davis of Lebanon, Ohio, trained by Brandon Piggott with Bob Harper. Number 8 is Western Gambler by Thomas Sarazen. They're of Florida, trained by Virgil Morgan Jr. with Brett Miller. From the outside of the 9 is Noble Alex, owned by Jim Chaliff of Cincinnati, Ohio, trained and driven by Jim Daly. And scoring from off the second tier is the 10, Magic Sparrow by Allman and MacArthur, Ohio, and Kirk of New Holland, Ohio, trained by Ken Kirk with Dallas Miller in the sulky. Tonight at Scioto Downs, field in motion. They're all fan pacing and stepping away from the middle of the track. There goes the 4, Jack's brother Joe, driving up from the rail. There is Civil War coming away, racing in 3rd. That is Instigator, driving up on the outside in 4. That is Western Gambler. Away in 5 from off the second tier. That is Magic Sparrow. 6th along the inside. That is Bert and Bobby. 7th is the Big Wazoo. 8th there. That is Meals on Wheels. And 9th and trailing the field, Noble Alex can see them all as they race around the first turn and over to the opening quarter. From the inside, Jack's brother Joe is being joined by Western Gambler, who takes over the lead here through the opening quarter in 28 3/5. On by the grandstand for the first time and heading on down to the half, and Western Gambler had to work for it, but clear to the frontier by length and a quarter. Into the inside, Jack's brother Joe is stalking at the garden spot, racing in 2. Civil War along the inside is racing in 3rd. A shuffle back in 4th. That is Instigator. First over the outside, racing in 5. Here comes Magic Sparrow as they step around the clubhouse, turn in front of the paddock and on over to the half. They reach the half in 58 3/5. A second panel there at 30 seconds flat. Off the turn and driving down the backside. Heads are pointed towards 3/4 and on top. Western Gambler leads it here by a tight length and a quarter. Into the inside, Jack's brother Joe is all over the helmet of Brett Miller there. First over the out rim, racing in 3rd. That is Magic Sparrow, perfectly placed. Second over the outside in 4th. That is Meals on Wheels, buried at the rail in 5. That is Civil War. 3rd over on the outside in 6th. Noble Alex, they went by 3/4 and 128 flat. They'll pace the final turn and head for home. On top of the field, Western Gambler with the lead here. To the outside, Magic Sparrow is still coming to him and awaiting the passing lane. That is Jack's brother Joe, and now exploding over the outside. Here comes Noble Alex off the turn in less than an 1/8 of a mile to go. And down the stretch they come. Western Gambler with the lead here. To the inside, Jack's brother Joe as they come to the wire. Western Gambler in front. Finishing second was the 4, Jack's brother Joe. 3rd was the 1, Civil War. The time of the mile, 1:55 4/5. Western Gambler out of the Virgil Morgan Jr. stable for driver Brett Miller. To be greeted by Chrissy Fout, as she'll do throughout the evening. Here's the 8, Western Gambler. A 3-year-old bay colt by Western Hanover out of a We Want to Win mare. She by Life Sign by Thomas Eucharis, Daniel Plouffe Incorporated in Sarazen. They're of Florida, trained by Virgil Morgan Jr. Nicely handled cheer this evening by winning driver Brett Miller. Scioto Downs leading trainer and driver Brett Miller take the first. Here is the field. The 2, Ty Rogers, owned and trained by John Nelson, parent of Lebanon, Ohio, with Jim Daly. Number 3 is Red Kojak, owned by Richard Stevens of Columbus, Ohio, trained by Fred Winstead Jr. with Dan Noble. Number 4 is Montana Stan. My Budweiser Buzz Bet of the Night is owned by Amanda Pietkus of Hilliard, Ohio, trained by Virgil Morgan Jr. with leading driver Brett Miller. Number 5, KB's Pete, owned by Pamela Hanauer of Lebanon, Ohio, trained and driven by Trent Tharps. Number 6, Breezy No Blue, by Frank Castle of Staffordsville, Kentucky, trained by Jeff Brewer, Jason Brewer at the lines. Number 7, Anxious Charlie, owned and trained by Todd Cummins of Salina, Ohio, with Bob Harper up from the outside of the 8, Bad Boy Justin, by Roy Swaney of Spring Valley, Ohio, trained by David Loff, with Dallas Miller in the sulky. There they go. This field is in motion. They're all fan pacing and stepping out of there for the lead. There goes the 3. Red Kojak is headed out for command. From the inside, Ty Rogers comes away in the garden spot in 2. Along the inside in 3rd, that is Montana Stan. Away in 4th there. That's the 5 KB's Pete. 6th along the rail, that is Breezy No Blue. Angled in 7th, that is Anxious Charlie. As they step around the first turn and over to the opening quarter, Red Kojak with the lead here. Into the inside, Ty Rogers in 2nd. 3rd along the rail, Montana Stan. 4th is KB's Pete. The initial quarter in 28 and 2. On the inside in 5, Breezy No Blue. 6th along the rail, that is Bad Boy Justin. In 7th and trailing the field here, Anxious Charlie, as they step in front of the stand for the first time and head on down to the half, rolling into the wire with 5/8 of a mile remaining on top. Red Kojak with the lead here, and Outbeat being joined on the outside in 2. That is Montana Stan as they race around the clubhouse, turning on over to the half. Red Kojak from the inside to the outside. Montana Stan is at the leader's wheel disc in 2. Along the inside, Ty Rogers watches over the dueling leaders from 3rd. They were halfway home in 58 and 3/5. A move to the outside. 2nd over in 4th is KB's Pete. 5th, that is Breezy No Blue. 6th along the inside, Anxious Charlie. In 7th and trailing the field, Bad Boy Justin. Less than 3/8 of a mile remaining and rolling on down the backside. On top from the inside, Red Kojak. But up on the outside, Montana Stan now sticks and O's in front. Along the inside, Ty Rogers is watching over him from 3rd. They reach the 3/4 mile mark of the race in 1:26 and 4/5. They'll pace the final turn and head for home. Red Kojak to the inside, Montana Stan. These two are inseparable as they turn to the top of the stretch. Less than 1/8 of a mile to go. And down the stretch they come. Red Kojak from the inside. Montana Stan on the outside is still there and going on and going strong here. And now swung to the outside, Ty Rogers with a late bid. But as they come to the wire, Montana Stan in front. Finishing 2nd, Red Kojak. 3rd of the mile was the 2, Ty Rogers. The time of the mile, 1:55 3/5. Montana Stan. Virgil Morgan Jr. and Brett Miller take the early daily double for Montana Stan. A 5-year-old bait outing by Jenna's Beach Boy out of a Tracy's Jackpot mare. She by Albatross, owned by Amanda Pietkus of Hilliard, Ohio, trained by Virgil Morgan Jr. Nicely handled here this evening by wedding driver Brett Miller. A conditioning double for Virgil Morgan Jr. and a driving double here for Brett Miller through the first 2 races. James Byers with Jim Daly. The 2 is Robert Rogan of Bell Fountain, Ohio, who owns and trains Dockside with Dallas Miller. Number 3 is Staley Lane by Marvin Godown of Greenville, Ohio, trained and driven by the K-Man, Kane Kaufman. The 4, Lampeter, owned and trained by Randy Lee Owens of Lebanon, Ohio, with Dave Myers. Here's the 5, Goodbye to Hollywood, owned by Gwen Thompson of Piketon, Ohio, trained by Terry Thompson Jr. with Justin Hall. Number 6 is Cody Wood by Castle of Staffordsville, Kentucky, and Eddie Blair of Paintsville, Kentucky, trained by Jeff Brewer. Jason Brewer is up. Number 7 is Tucson Guy by Gary Adams of Circleville, Ohio, trained by Jerry Kuchbach with Dave Hawk. Number 8, Colby's Future by Joseph Shemaiah of Lexington, Kentucky, trained by Lamar Moody with Brett Miller. And for the outside of the 9, Gifted Jate by Mark Huber of Westchester, Ohio, trained by David Perry, Danny Noble in the sulky. There they go. This field is in motion. They're off fan pacing and stepping out of there from the outside. There goes the 7 Tucson guy. Middle of the track, there's the 3 Staley Lane, who's looking to be angled in 2. Along the inside, Dockside has come away racing in 3rd. 4th from off the rail, that is Latta Jones. A gap of a length and a half in 5. That is Lampeter in. 6th there along the inside as they race around the first turn. That is Goodbye to Hollywood. 7th is Cody Wood. 8th along the inside, Colby's Future. And 9th and trailing the field, Gifted Jate. And Dan Noble can see them all as they move by the opening quarter in 28 3/5, and Staley Lane was not content with his 2-hole and moves to the top here for the K-Man, leading it by a length and a quarter. Into the inside, Tucson Guile now stock in 2nd. Along the inside, Dockside is racing in 3rd. Latta Jones is 4th. First over the outside in 5, Goodbye to Hollywood. Buried at the rail in 6th, that is Lampeter in. Into the outside racing in 7th, that is Cody Wood. As they step around the clubhouse, turning on over to the half. Joining the cover flow in 8th, that is Colby's Future. And 9th and trailing the field as they step towards the half, that is Gifted Jate. They went the half in 59 1/5. Off the turn and driving down the backside. Heads are pointed towards 3/4 and on top of the field. Staley Lane and the K-Man leads it here by a length and a quarter. Into the inside, Tucson Guy is all over his helmet, racing in 2nd. Up on the outside, first over in 3rd, that is Goodbye to Hollywood. Along the rail in 4th, Dockside. To the outer flow, racing in 5. 2nd over there, that is Cody Wood. 6th along the inside, Latta Jones. 7th to the outside there, Colby's Future. As they move by 3/4 on the board in 129 flat. They'll pace the final turn and head for home, and Goodbye to Hollywood sticks ahead in front. Being swung 3 wide to the outside there, that is Cody Wood, and looking for racing room here, that is Tucson Guy, as Staley Lane is backing through the field. Less than an eighth of a mile to go, and down the stretch they come with the lead here. Goodbye to Hollywood, middle of the track there, Tucson Guy to the passing lane. Here comes Dockside, outside. Here's Tucson Guy, gets up to win it all. Very close there for 2nd and 3rd. May have been the 6 Cody Wood up for 2nd. The time of the mile, 1:58 flat. Tucson Guy. Trackside of the winner's circle, the official winner of the 3rd race. Surviving the objection there, here's the 7 Tucson Guy. A 10-year-old chestnut gelding by Tucson Hanover. Out of the landslide mare Lanzes. Lanish, owned by Gary Adams of Circleville, Ohio, trained by Jerry Kuchbach. Nicely handled here this evening by winning driver Dave Hawk. Posting this 2nd win in 2003, the 7 Tucson Guy and Dave Hawk, home a winner in 1:58 flat. $500 exacta trifecta early pick 3 wagering begins here with a scratch of the 7 Town Bullet 6 down to a field of 6. The 1 Lifestream Mindale, owned by Reed Racing of the big city of Newark, Ohio, trained and driven by Dean Collins. Number 2 is Kioki Cam, owned by David Roop of Jonesville, Virginia, trained by Ted Roop with Bob Harper. Number 3 is 4 Stars Fella, by Douglas Neely of Barberton, Ohio, trained by Virgil Morgan Jr. with driver Brett Miller. Number 4 is Norman Feeney, by Leslie Lane of Ostrander, Ohio, trained by Jim Pollock Jr. with a K-Man, Kane Kaufman. Number 5 is Pinnacle. The lessee is Dorothy Christie of Grove City, Ohio, trained by Mr. Todd Christie with Kyle Ader. The 6, and for the outside here, Meadowland Big Sam, owned by Mike Metters, Don Hoovler, and Tina Sudermeister. They're all at the Buckeye State, trained by Mike Metters, Jamie Dunlap, and the Sulky. This field is in motion. They're off fan pacing and stepping out of there from the inside, showing some early foot. That is Kioki Cam driving up right on from the inside. Lifestream Mindale got up on the outside of there in 3rd. That is 4 Stars Fella, who will have to press on here. Coming away in 4th, that is Meadowland Big Sam. A gap at 2 and 5. That is Norman Feeney in 6th, and trailing the field. That is Pinnacle as they race around the first turn and over to the opening quarter. And 4 Star Fella is forging onto the front end here as they roll towards the opening quarter in 27 2/5. On top of the field, 4 Stars Fella with the lead here as he passes in front of the grandstand for the first time, and heading on down to the half with the lead, 4 Stars Fella. Kioki Cam, Lifestream Mindale is next in 3rd. Meadowland Big Sam is unhurried in 4th. 5th and first over there, that is Norman Feeney, who is towing Long Pinnacle. 2nd over the outside in 6th as they step around the clubhouse, turning on over to the half. On top, your 3 to 5 punter's choice. 4 Stars Fella and Brett Miller leads it comfortably by a length and a half. They report to the half in 56 and 4/5. Along the inside, racing in second, that is Kyoki Cam. Along the inside in third, Livestream Hindale. Off the turn and driving down the backside. Heads are pointed towards 3/4 and on top. 4 Stars Fella with less than 3/8 of a mile remaining. Along the inside, Kyoki Cam is racing in second, grinding it out first over the outside, racing in third. That is Norman Feeney. Baird at the rail, racing in fourth there. That is Livestream Mindale. Move to the outside 5 is Pinnacle in sixth and trailing the field. That is Meadowland Big Sam. 3/4 on the board in 1:25 and 1/5. They'll pace the final turn and head for home, and 4 Stars Fella under a tippy tap of the whip from Brett Miller with the lead by a length and a quarter. Up on the inside, now angle to the outside for the stretch drive. Here comes Kyoki Cam through the stretch, less than a 16th of a mile to go, and down the stretch they come. 4 Stars Fella to the inside, Livestream Mendale outside Kyoki Cam. They're going to hit the wire with Kyoki Cam in front, finishing second the 1 Livestream Mendale. Third was the 3 4 Stars Fella. The time of the mile 1:53 2/5. Kyoki Cam. A Bonnie Jane Baker mares, she by Bakerfield, owned by David Roop at Jonesville, Virginia, trained by Ted Roop. Nicely handled here this evening by winning driver Bob Harper. 1:53 and 2, the 2 Kyoki Cam in a season's best. Horses are stepping out of the paddock for this evening's 5th race, claiming handicap pace, a 1 mile, a purse of $3,600. Down to a field of 9 with a scratch of the 9, Calicac Bluegrass Sick. The 1 Jade Star. This is Scott Piney's Bud Light Long Shot of the Night, owned by the Bed Stable of Sunbury, Ohio, trained by Daryl Hoosier with a K-Man, Kane Kaufman. Number 2 is Rain Man, owned by Matt Rove, Urbana, Ohio, trained by Robert Stapleton with Bob Harper. Number 3 is Sam's Mega Box, owned by Wallace Osborne of Columbus, Ohio, trained by Mike Metters with Jamie Dunlap. The 4, Helsa Sam, My Bud Light Long Shot of the Night, is owned by the Shout Stable of Pompano Beach, Florida, trained and driven by Rick Shout. Number 5, SF Patriot, by Sandra Hall of Chillicothe, Ohio, trained and driven by Justin Hall. Number 6 is Hit the Beach, by Joseph Shemaiah of Lexington, Kentucky, trained by Lamar Moody with Dan Noble. The 7 Appointment Hog, by Roy Murphy of Minden, Ohio, and Richard Stevens of Columbus, Ohio, trained by Roy Murphy with Brett Miller. Number 8 is Mighty Sam, by Catherine Hawk of Orient, Ohio, trained by Lloyd Hawk. Dave Hawk drives the 8, Mighty Sam. The 9, Calicac Bluegrass, is out sick, and scoring from off the second tier is the 10, Miami Jewel, owned and trained by William Pugh of Groveport, Ohio, with Jeff Collins in the sulky. Set for a start. This field is in motion. They're off and pacing and driving out for the lead from the middle of the track. There's the 3 Sam's Mega Bucks on the way outside. There is Mighty Sam, who's on the go. Coming away in third, that is Rain Man. Gap at 2.5, racing in fourth. From off the second tier, that is Miami Jewel. Onto the inside in 5, that is Helsa Sam. 6th along the rail there, that's the 5S Patriot. 7th along the rail, that is Hit the Beach. A gap at 2.5, racing in 8th there. That's the 7 Appointment Hog. In 9th and trailing the field, Jade Star got away last by the initial quarter in 27 and 1. On to the front end tier, Mighty Sam clear to the front tier for Dave Hawk. Along the inside, Sam's Mega Box is relegated to the garden spot, racing in 2. Rain Man is racing in 3rd. First flush over there, first flushed out. That's the 2 Rain Man, now who is first over the outside in 3rd. Second over the outside in 4th, that is Miami Jewel. Inside racing in 5, Helsa Sam. 3rd over on the outside in 6th, that is SF Patriot. Along the rail in 7th, that is Hit the Beach. They reach the half in 56 and 2/5. Off the turn and driving down the backside. Heads are pointed towards 3/4 and on top. Mighty Sam out of the Lloyd Hawk stable for driver Dave Hawk. Leads it here by a length and a quarter. To the outside, grinding it out first over in 2, that is Rain Man. Along the inside, racing in 3rd, that is Sam's Mega Bucks. Poised to strike 3 wide of the outside, in doing so now in 4th. That's the 10 Miami Jewel. Moving to the outside there, that's the 4 Helsa Sam, who's all bottled up as they reach 3/4 on the board in 1:25 and 3/5. fifths. They'll pace the final turn and head for home, and Mighty Sam has got away from him by 6. Now swung 3 wide to the outside. Elsa Sam is closing in with every single stride to the top of Heartbreak Lane. Less than an eighth of a mile to go, and down the stretch they come. Mighty Sam with the lead here. Elsa Sam is closing down the middle of the racetrack as they drive to the wire. Mighty Sam, coast to coast. Finishing second, Elsa Sam. Third was the 6, Hit the Beach. The time of the mile, 1:55, 1/5. Mighty Sam. Oh, trackside to the winner's circle, the official winner of the 5th race, number 8, Mighty Sam, timed at 1:55 and 1/5. The 8 Mighty Sam is a 7-year-old bay guarding by Noble and Sam out of a taillight mare, Bright Light, owned by Catherine Hawk of Orient, Ohio, trained by Lloyd Hawk, nicely driven by winning driver Dave Hawk. That's 2 wins on this evening's program for driver Dave Hawk, giving him a driving double. The 8 Mighty Sam and Team Hawk score here in 1:55, 1/5. The 1 Fearless Sabra, owned by Amabel Patel, Springfield, Ohio, trained by Mike Lee, Danny Noble. The 2 Deceiver Hall by Charles Autry of Cincinnati, Ohio, trained by David Perry with Jason Brewer up. The 3 High Caliber by Thomas Carroll of Coshocton, Ohio, trained by Mervyn Kenner with Kyle Wader at the lines. The 4 Michael's Majesty by Kyle Ladd of Grover Hill, Ohio, and Leroy Elliott of Lima, Ohio, trained and driven by Roy Burns. Number 5 is Really Shady by Rick Starr of Hilliard, Ohio, trained by Virgil Morgan Jr. Brett Miller is up. The 6, Kim You Believe Him by the Free as a Bird stable, incorporated at Coral Springs, Florida, trained by Lloyd Hawk, Dave Hawk. The 7, Reasonable Doubt by Phyllis Crosley of Lebanon, Ohio, trained by Eddie Pulling with Robert Cook. The 8 is Fort Herod by the Fountain Valley Farm at Danville, Kentucky, trained and driven by Dean Collins. And for the outside of the 9, Positive Scooter by Marvin Godown of Greenville, Ohio, trained and driven by the K-Man, Kane Kaufman, and the Sulky. 80.
5, 8, and 6. Really Shady.
Get set to take a look at. They're all fan pacing and stepping out of there for the lead from the outside. There goes Kim You Believe Him, driving up right alongside. That is Really Shady. From the rail, there is Fearless Sabra. Coming away in 4th, Deceiver Hall. Angled in, racing in 5, that is High Caliber. 6th there along the rail, that is Michael's Majesty. 7th there, that is Reasonable Doubt. And the 2 trailers here are Fort Herod and Positive Scooter. Can see them all as they step around the first turn and over to the opening quarter. On top of the field, that is Really Shady, clearing to the front for Brett Miller through an initial quarter of 27 and 2. Kim You Believe Him is right there, stalking at the garden spot, racing in 2nd. Along the inside, Fearless Sabra is racing in 3rd as they roll by the stand for the first time and roll under the wire with 5/8 of a mile remaining. That's Really Shady, Kim You Believe Him, Fearless Sabra, first to flush on the outside in 4th, Deceiver Hall, who is towing along High Caliber, 2nd over the outside in 5, 3rd over on the outside, racing in 6th there as they step towards the halfway mile mark of the race. That is Michael's Majesty. As they reach the half, they trip the halfway mile beam in 57 and 2/5. A well-rated 2nd panel with 30 seconds flat. Off the turn and driving down the backside. Heads are pointed towards 3/4, and Really Shady is leading them here by a length. Now grinding it out first over on the outside in 2 at the leader's wheel disc. That is Deceiver Hall. Along the inside in 3rd, Kim You Believe Him. 2nd over the outside in 4th, that is High Caliber. Penned in at the rail in 5, Fearless Sabra. Along the rail, racing in 6th, that is up on the inside there. That's the 7, Reasonable Doubt. 3/4 and 126 flat. They'll pace the final turn and head for home. On top, Really Shady, the 1-2 punter's choice with the lead here, and Brett Miller is still sitting chilly in the bike there, and now he pops out the earplugs on the 5, Really Shady, as they turn to the top of the stretch. Less than an eighth of a mile to go, and down the stretch they come, driving through Power Alley, and Really Shady is exploding away here. Really Shady is going on and going strong. Really Shady in front. Finishing 2nd was the 6, Kim You Believe Him. 3rd was the 1, Fearless Sabra. The time of the mile, 1:54. Returning trackside to the winner's circle. Here's the winner of the 6th race, the 5, Really Shady. 5-year-old bay gelding by Towner's Big Guide of a Shady Romance mare. She by Falcon's Hilster, by Rick Starr of Hilliard, Ohio, trained by Virgil Morgan Jr. Nicely handled here this evening by Scioto Downs leading driver Brett Miller. Scioto Downs leading conditioner Virgil Morgan Jr. and Brett Miller trackside of the winner's circle here with the 5, Really Shady, 1:54, 1/5. Pick 3, 3 of 3, 46-20. The presentation on behalf of Scioto Downs, the Vice President of Scioto Downs, Mrs. Laverne Hill, the Assistant General Manager, Jerry Cow, the Director of Racing, Stacy Christie, and the Publicity and Marketing Director here at Scioto Downs, Jason Zielinski, trackside here to make the trophy presentation to Scioto Downs leading trainer, Virgil Morgan Jr., and Scioto Downs leading driver, Brett Miller. Let's give him a nice round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, Virgil Morgan Jr. and Brett Miller, Scioto Downs leading driver and trainer. An explosive combination. Scioto Downs is privileged to have two gentlemen like this. Virgil Morgan Jr., the leading trainer in North America in 2002 for wins, and Brett Miller, the top reinsman here at the Buckeye State. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give Virgil Morgan Jr. and Brett Miller a nice round of applause. Scoring from off the rail, the one is Friend in Full Stride, owned by Greg Luther and John Shattuck of Ohio, trained by John Robinson. Greg Luther is up. The 2 is Humor Borg by Craig Colston of Springboro, Ohio, trained by Scioto Downs leading trainer Virgil Morgan Jr., handled by Scioto Downs leading driver Brett Miller. Number 3, Windbreaker by Clarence Sonny DeLong of Orient, Ohio, trained and driven by Bob Harper. Number 4, Jock Osborne, owned and trained by Gary Masajewski of Lebanon, Ohio, with Danny Noble. Number 5 is Glenview Fritz by Eddie Pulling and Dan Stone of Lebanon, Ohio, trained by Eddie Pulling with Robert S. Cook. The 6, Nancy's Buddy by Kevin Clark of Centerville, Ohio, trained by David Perry with Trent Tharps. Number 7 is Blast the Siren by James Davis of Lebanon, Ohio, trained by Brandon Piggott with Dave Hawk. Number 8 is Tricks of the Trade by Heath and Craig Parker of Canal, Winchester, Ohio, trained by Craig Parker with a K-Man, Kane Kaufman. And for the outside of the 9, Bearcat Hanover by Reed Racing of the big city of Newark, Ohio, trained and driven by Dean Collins and the Sulky. This field is in motion, getting set for a start. They're off and pacing and firing away for the lead. There goes the 5, Glenview Fritz, who's headed for command here. From the inside, Fred in full stride comes away, racing in second. Ducking in third, that is Jock Osborne. 4th there along the rail, that is Humor Borg. Looking to angle it in 5, that is Nancy's Buddy. 6th there, that is Windbreaker. 7th along the rail, that is Blast the Siren. 8th there, that is Tricks of the Trade. And 9th and trailing the field, that is Bearcat Hanover. As they step around the first turn and over to the opening quarter. The opening quarter in 27 3/5, and Glenview Fritz leads them by the stand for the first time and heading on down to the half. Along the inside, Fred in full stride is racing in second. 3rd along the rail, that is Jock Osborne. 4th up on the outside there, that is Humor Borg, who flushes out Jock Osborne there as they race around the clubhouse, turning on over to the half. Glenview Fritz on the front interior by a length and a quarter. To the inside, Fred in full stride is stalking at the garden spot, racing in second. 1st over the outside in 3rd, Jock Osborne. 4th there along the rail, Nancy's Buddy. 2nd over the outside in 5, that is Humor Borg. They reach the half in 56 4/5. Off the turn and driving down the backside. Heads are pointed towards 3/4, and Glenview Fritz continues to lead the way by a length and a half. To the inside, Fred in full stride is racing in second. 1st over the outside, racing in 3rd still, that is Jock Osborne. 2nd over the outside in 4th, that is Humor Borg. 5th at the rail there, that is Nancy's Buddy. 6th on the outside, Windbreaker. They reach 3/4 and 125 flat. They'll pace the final turn and head for home. Glenview Fritz to the inside with the lead to the inside, racing in 2. Fred in full stride and now swung up 3 wide to the outside. Here comes Humor Borg to the top of the stretch. Less than an 1/8 of a mile to go. And down the stretch they come. To the inside, Glenview Fritz, but Humor Borg blows right on by as they drive within the final 16th. Humor Borg is getting up to win it. Windbreaker closing in late for second. 3rd is the 1, Fred in full stride at the top of the mile. 154 3/5. Humor Borg. Return 1760, 231 try, 146.80. Trackside of the winner's circle, the official winner of the 7th race, the 2, Humor Borg. An 8-year-old bay horse by Franz Hanover and a Tall Angus mare, she by Bye Pat, by Craig Colston of Springboro, Ohio, trained by Virgil Morgan Jr. Nicely handled here this evening by winning driver Brett Miller. For conditioner Virgil Morgan Jr., that's 4 wins on this evening's program. And for driver Brett Miller, That's 4 wins on this evening's program. The 2, Humorborg, 154, 3/5. Field for the 8th, the 1 Meadowland Shuffle. Dan Stone and Eddie Pulling of Lebanon, Ohio. Eddie Pulling trains, Robert Cook drives. The 2 were American Pan by Richard Bullis of Phoenix, Arizona, trained by Virgil Morgan Jr., Brett Miller. The 3 Passum Sam by the Tabar Stables Incorporated at Chillicothe, Ohio, trained by William Taylor, Justin Hall. The 4 Mystical Cam, Reed Racing of Newark, Ohio, trained and driven by Dean Collins. The 5 The Terrific Chow, owned and trained by John Perrin of Lebanon, Ohio, Sandy Beatty. The 6 Powerful Sam, owned by James Grandstaff of Washington Courthouse, Ohio. Dan Ader trains, Kyle Ader at the lines. The 7 Evil Tricks is Scratch Sec. The 8 Meadowland Tough Ted, Hoover of Pataskala, Ohio. Metters of Reynoldsburg, Ohio, trained by Mike Metters. Jamie Dunlap, but for the outside of the 9 Playboy Sabra. Charles and Christine Blankenship of Asheville, Ohio, owned. Mike Lee trains, Dan Noble in the sulky. That's the field for the 8th race. Scratching the 7 Evil Tricks Sec of the 10 Aw Shade Sec. Nearing the start. Field in motion. They're all fan pacing and break the 1 Meadowland Shuffle before the start, and firing out of there for the leader there is Passum Sam. Mystical Cam has also joined him. Ducking in, racing in third, that is Powerful Sam. On the outside of there, looking to angle one in fourth, that is Meadowland Tough Ted. On the inside in 5, that is We're American Pan. 6th there along the rail, that is the Terrific Tower. Gap at 2 and 7th. Back down pacing is Meadowland Shuffle. And 8th then trailing the field, that is Playboy Sabra by the initial quarter, and it's a hot one, 26 3/5. On by the stand for the first time and heading on down to the half, and Passum Sam and Justin Hall on the front interior by a length and a quarter. To the inside, Mystical Cam is right there, nose to helmet racing in second. First over the outside in third, that is Powerful Sam, who is towing along We're American Pan. Second over there as they step around the clubhouse, turning on over to the half. Passum Sam on top here by a length and a quarter. To the outside, Powerful Sam is grinding it out in 2. They reach the half in 56 2/5. A second panel at 29 4. Off the turn and driving down the backside. Heads are pointed towards 3/4 and from the inside. Passum Sam, but now over the outside. Powerful Sam sticks ahead in front. Second over the outside there in third, that is We're American Pan. Buried at the rail behind a horse that is backing through the field, that is Mystical Cam. Above the outside there in fifth, that is the Terrific Tao. As they approach the 3/4 mile mark of the race, we've got a new leader, Powerful Sam, through 3/4, 125 2/5. They'll pace the final turn and head for home, and We're American Pan by ahead on the outside. Powerful Sam is trying to battle back the Terrific Tao's into the thick of things. To the top of the stretch, less than an 1/8 of a mile to go. And down the stretch they come, and We're American Pan forges to the front end here. Mystical Cam is trying to come on late, but there's no doubt about it. Virgil Morgan Jr. and Brett Miller's got win number 5, We're American Pan. Finishing second was the 4 Mystical Cam. Third was the 8 Meadowland Tough Ted at the time of the mile, 154 3/5. 4 3/5. Here's the 2, We're American Pan. 5-year-old bay outing by Arts Place out of a Baloo Hanover mare, she by Tyler B. By Richard Bullis of Phoenix, Arizona, trained by Virgil Morgan Jr. Nicely handled here this evening by the hitman, Brett Miller. The 2, We're American Pan, gives Virgil Morgan Jr. and driver Brett Miller 5 wins on this evening's program. It's official, 2-4-8-6 official, 2-4 exact to return to $11 even, 2-4-8 try, 51.40. We're American Pan, 154 3/5. The horses are stepping out of the paddock for this evening's 9th race, claiming handicap pace, a 1 mile purse of $5,500, exact as in tries, a field of 8, no changes. The 1 Bad Eye Baker by Denny Centers of Franklin, Ohio, and Howard Lewis of Carlisle, Ohio, trained by Jeff Brewer with Jason Brewer at the lines. Number 2 is Big Pan on Campus by Scott Tyler George of Sunbury, Ohio, trained by John Schultz with Kyle Ader. Number 3, Dragon Magic, owned by Helen Rolston of Mendon, Ohio, trained and driven by Sam Albright. Number 4 is Lavros Breeze by John Shattuck of Columbus, Ohio, trained by John Robinson with Dan Noble. Number 5 is This Old Art of Mine, owned by Reed Racing of Newark, Ohio, trained and driven by Dean Collins. Number 6, Valley Fortune. Nancy Perry of Franklin, Ohio, and Tim Woodall of Cincinnati, Ohio. Own David Perry trains, Trent Tharps drives. The 7, North Wind by Douglas Neely of Barberton, Ohio, trained by Virgil Morgan Jr. Brett Miller is up. And for the outside of the 8, Mr. McGregor by Winchester Bakers Incorporated of Powell, Ohio, trained by Daryl Hoosier with a K-Man, Kane Kaufman, in the sulky. Field in motion. Being set on their way. They're all fan pacing and firing away from the outside. There goes North Wind, who gets the first call and crosses right on over. Up on the outside, Mr. McGregor is driving on, now angled into the garden spot, racing into there. Third along the inside, that is Bad Eye Baker. Fourth along the rail, that is Big Pan on campus. Fifth there along the rail, that is Valley Fortune. Sixth there is Dragon Magic. In the 2 trailers here are Lavros Breeze and This Old Art of Mine. Will have to do it from the back of the pack as they near the opening quarter in 27 3/5. On by the grandstand for the first time and heading on down to the half in North Wind. On top here for Brett Miller by a length and a half. And to the inside, Mr. McGregor had to yield for a garden spot, racing into along the inside. Bad Eye Baker racing in third. Fourth, that is Big Pan on campus. First over the outside in 5. Dragon Magic along the rail racing in 6. That is Valley Fortune. To the outer flow racing in 7th. As they step around the clubhouse turn, that is This Old Art of Mine. In 8th and trailing the field, Lavros Breeze. They reach the half in 57 2/5. A second panel at 29 4. Awful soft up top with the lead here. That is North Wind driving down the backside, rolling towards 3/4 in North Wind. On top by 2. Less than 3/8 of a mile remaining. Along the rail, Mr. McGregor is trying to go with him in second. Along the rail, racing third. That is Bad Eye Baker. Up on the outside, swung up 3 wide. Here comes This Old Art of Mine, closing in from the back of the pack as they roll towards 3/4. 3/4 on the board in 126 3/5. They'll pace the final turn and head for home. North Wind with the lead here, but now Mr. McGregor is being angled to the outside. It is coming to him and coming on and looking for racing room. That is Bad Eye Baker off the turn and driving through the stretch. Less than an 1/8 of a mile to go, and down the stretch they come. North Wind is battling back. Up on the outside, Mr. McGregor to the passing lane. Here's Bad Eye Baker. Big Pan on campus coming to the wire. Bad Eye Baker gets up to win into the super stretch. Finishing second was the 2, Big Pan on campus. Third was the 8, Mr. McGregor. The time of the mile, 1:56. 1/5. Photo well, here's the unofficial winner of the 9th race, claiming handicap pace, timed at 1:56 1/5. Now your official winner, scoring in deep stretch here through virtue of the super stretch, the 1, Bad Eye Baker. A 5-year-old bay horse by Reveille Ruler out of a Jay's Hellfire mare. She by Oil Burner by Denny Centers of Franklin, Ohio, and Howard Lewis of Carlisle, Ohio, trained by Jeff Brewer. Nicely handled here this evening by winning driver Jason Brewer. The 1, Bad Eye Baker, now your official winner. 1-2 exacta returns 123 even, 128 try, 531.80. Late pick 3. Gate swings into the back stretch. This field is in motion. They're all fan pacing and break the 1, Cam Sailor, rolling out of there for the lead. There's the 5, Sable Scooter from the inside. Flaming Rocky up on the inside in third. That is Big Sky Country. Driving up from the outside, that's the gray, Flaming Sabra. Fourth and moving on there. Fifth along the inside, Grant Kiss Charm. Sixth along the rail, that is Fire 1 and 2. Seventh there, that is Sable Scooter. Or rather, as they step around the first turn, Major Mahone in 8th and trailing the field after the early miscue, Cam Sailor. The opening quarter came and went in 28 seconds flat. On by the stand for the first time and heading on down to the half, and Sable Scooter with the lead here, but now by the outside to join the leader. That is Flaming Sabra. These two are dueling it out on the front interior as they roll under the wire with 5/8 of a mile remaining. On the inside, Flaming Rocky racing in third, Big Sky Country in fourth. Fifth, that is Grant Kiss Charm. Sixth along the rail, that is Fire 1 and 2. Seventh, that is Major Mahone. And 8th and trailing the field, Cam Sailor, but he's closed in on the field there. As they reach the half, they're halfway home in 57 3/5. Off the turn and driving down the backside. Heads are pointed towards 3/4 and on top. From the inside, Sable Scooter with Leitier grinding it out the overland route in 2. That is Flaming Sombra. Flaming Rocky along the inside is racing in 3rd. Poised to strike 3 wide and doing so now. Here comes Grant Kiss Charm, and Grant Kiss Charm looked the leader in the eye and went right on by. Grant Kiss Charm and Brett Miller onto the front end here as they roll by 3/4 and 126 and 3/5, and Grant Kiss Charm is moving on strong here to the inside. Sable Scooter could not go with him. Flaming Rocky is out for the drive in 3rd. 4th, that is Big Sky Country to the top of the stretch. Less than an 1/8 of a mile to go, and down the stretch he comes as they come to the wire here. This is all Grant Kiss Charm, and he's opening up and drawing away. He's moving like an even money favorite. Scott Piney's Budweiser best bet of the night, Grant Kiss Charm. Going to be very close for second. Looked like the 3 Big Sky Country over the 2 Flaming Rocky. The time of the mile 154, 3/5 arm. Top of the mile 154 and 3/5. An 8-year-old bay horse by Bomb Rickles out of a Charms Treasure mare. She by Treasure Reeve by Richard Bolus of Phoenix, Arizona. Trained by Virgil Morgan Jr. Nicely handled here this evening by winning driver Brett Miller. That's win number 5 in 2003 for the 6 Grant Kiss Charm in Brett Miller, who's now your official winner. For trainer Virgil Morgan Jr., that's 6 wins on this evening's card. And for driver Brett Miller, that's 6 wins on this evening's card. The 6 Grant Kiss Charm, it's official. The 6-3 exacta returns 84.20, 6-3-5 try, 171.40.
Claiming Pacers leaving the paddock for the 11th. Scratch the 4, Magical Nuke. 6, scratch the 7, Native Song. 6, Field of 8, presenting the field. The 1, Traction Control, owned by Thompson and Sheltman, trained by Terry Thompson Jr., Justin Hall. The 2, Bo Cam, owned by Tim Williamson, trained by Roy Wilson, driven by Roy Wilson. The 3, AJ's Foyt, owned and trained by Tommy Smith, Sandy Beatty. Scratch the 4, Magical Nuke. 6. The 5, The Upsetter, owned by June Stone, trained by Eddie Poling, Dan Noble. The 6, Tsunami, owned by Matt Rowe, trained by Robert Stapleton, Bob Harper. Scratch the 7, Native Song. 6. The 8, Noble Grinder, owned by Collins and Taylor, trained by Dean Collins, driven by Dean Collins. The 9, Cassie's Raider, owned, trained, and driven by Trent Tharps. Rounding out the field, the 10, William J. Bonney, owned by Rick Starr, trained by Jeff Brewer. Jason Brewer drives. Claiming Pacers sent on the way. The Upsetter leaving well. Tsunami on the outside. On the far outside, Noble Grinder. They meet up with the first turn. Tsunami and Bob Harper have a length lead. The Upsetter yields in second. Noble Grinder looks to drop in third. Traction Control racing in fourth. A length back to William J. Bonney fifth. Then comes Bo Kim, AJ's Foyt, trailing the field. Cassie's Raider. 8 Claiming Pacers approached the opening quarter-mile marker. It's Tsunami, the 2-5 Bettor's Choice off the opening quarter-mile marker. 28-3 into the stretch for the first time. Tsunami still calling the shots. The Upsetter tracking that one from second. Noble Grinder 2 lengths back in third. Traction Control racing in fourth. William J. Bonney fifth, tipping to the outside. Bo Cam, then comes AJ's Foyt. He moves on the outside, and Cassie's Raider can see them all. 8 lengths from the lead. They meet up with a clubhouse there in the final time. Bob Harper and Tsunami, the lead a length and 3/4. Racing in second, the Upsetter first to pull, Noble Grinder. That gives Bo Cam cover along the inside. Traction Control races fifth. Then comes William J. Bonney along the inside. 6 AJ's Foyt, and Cassie's Raider still trails off the half in 59-2. They curve onto the backstretch. Tsunami, the lead a length and a half. The Upsetter second, Noble Grinder grinding it out first over. Traction Control along the inside fourth. Second over, Bo Cam along the inside. William J. Bonney followed by AJ's Foyt. Cassie's Raider still trails 7 lengths from the lead. Approaching the 3/4 mile marker, it's still Tsunami. The lead is a half length. Noble Grinder right alongside second, waiting for racing room. The Upsetter 3/4, 1, 28 and 3. Mid-right on the far turn, Tsunami still the leader. Noble Grinder won't go away on the outside. The upsetter awaiting the open stretch. Too farther back to Traction Control. They arrive at the top of the stretch. Tsunami on a slim lead. Noble Grinder still coming at him on the outside. The upsetter swung out, and he's third in deep stretch. Noble Grinder takes the lead. The upsetter coming on with Tsunami third in deep stretch. Dean Collins and Noble Grinder a length on the wire. The upsetter second. Tsunami was third. 157 and 2. Noble Grinder. In the winner's circle, the winner of the 11th race, the 8 Noble Grinder. He's a Bay 5-year-old gelding by Noble and Sam out of the Tyler B. Mare Pavement Grinder, owned by Kathy Collins and Michael Taylor of Columbus, Ohio, trained and driven this evening by Dean Collins. In the winner's circle, the 8 Noble Grinder. Prices are up the exact 8 and 5, $41 even. The try combination of 8, 5, and 6, $102 even.
Downs, Ohio showplace of racing. Being led to the post by outrider Kathy Hawk. Scratch the 2, Futu. Judges a field of 9, the 1 Kentucky Kid, owned by Debbie Geiler of Pataskala, Ohio, trained and driven by Sandy Beatty. The 2, Futu is out, judges the 3, Sky High Rebo. Melby Ober Sr. Cable, Ohio, trained by Ann Hildebrand with Dave Rapine. Number 4 is Traditional Frank, owned, trained and driven by Robert Chafin of New Albany, Ohio. Number 5 is King Aura, owned and trained by Roy Murphy of Mendon, Ohio, with Brett Miller at the lines. Number 6, Rushing Call by Robert Garnett of Hamilton, Ohio, trained by Robert Garnett with Jason Brewer. The 7, Jenny's Wild Child by Stephen Watkins of Sydney, Ohio, trained by Dan McClough, Bob Harper. Number 8, Jake Daniels, owned by Jonathan Gordon of Champaign, Illinois, trained by Marlon Smith, Dave Hawk. The 9, Let's Rock, owned and trained by John Nelson Perrin of Lebanon, Ohio, Danny Noble at the lines. And scoring from off the second tier, the 10 Meadowland Partner by Hoover of Pataskala, Ohio, and Metters of Washington, Pennsylvania, trained by Mike Metters, Jamie Dunlap, Ian the Sulky. Scioto Downs. This field is in motion as the curtain closes on another successful racing season. They're all fan pacing and firing away from the outside. There goes Jake Daniels driving through between horses. That is Jenny's Wild Child. Up on the inside in third, that is Sky High Rebo. Got to the outside, looking to duck in. Racing in fourth, that is Traditional Frank. Away in 5, Kentucky Kid. From off the second tier in 6, that is Meadowland Partner. 7th, that is King Aura. The 2 trailers here, that is Rushing Call. As they step towards the opening quarter, the trailers, Let's Rock and Dan Noble can see them all. The initial quarter in 27 and 3/5, and now charging over the outside, Jenny's Wild Child and Bob Harper to the front end. Along the inside, racing in second now, that is Jake Daniels. Up on the outside in third, that is Traditional Frank. Fourth, that is Sky High Rebo. Gap at 3 and 5, Kentucky Kid. 6th is Meadowland Partner. 7th there, that is Rushing Call. 8th along the rail, that is King Orin. 9th and trailing the field as they step around the clubhouse turn for the final time, that is Let's Rock. They reach the half in 56 and 4/5. Off the turn and driving down the backside. On top of the field from the inside, Jenny's Wild Child and Bob Harper leads it by 3 parts of a length. Up on the outside, Traditional Frank is racing in 2, and now swung to the outside here. That is Meadowland Partner, who is picking him up and putting him down as they roll towards the 3/4 mile mark of the race. Jenny's Wild Child with the lead here to the inside. Meadowland Partner, a ground-saving effort, is second. Up on the outside, Traditional Frank is third and laboring there. Fourth, that is Rushing Call. 3/4 and 126 flat. They'll pace the final time from 2003. On top, Jenny's Wild Child with the lead. Meadowland Partner is now bearing down on the outside in second. Off the turn in less than an eighth of a mile to go. And down the stretch they come in the finale. Jenny's Wild Child is set down for the drive. In between a Meadowland Partner on the outside. Rushing Call is charging hard. And Rushing Call gets up to win the final race in 2003 here at Scioto Downs. Second, Meadowland Partner. Third was the 7, Jenny's Wild Child. And to round out the super, the 5, King Aura. The time of the mile, 156 3/5. Rushing Call in a new lifetime mark. 610 exacta returns 39.20. 610 7 try 598 even. 610 75 super $1,337.20. Late double 8 6 55 60. Late pick 3 3 of 3 153.40.